Welcome, one and all, back to the Viper's Nest, where today I'm not talking about lore, but I am talking about two games that I've been losing my soul to recently, and my review thereof. So let's get right into it. The first game I've been playing recently, Risk of Rain 2, a third-person, wave-based survivor shoot-'em-up. And boy, let me tell you, this game is some kind of crack. It's not a new game. It's been out for quite a while. I guess I've just been sleeping on it. So I'm not going to spend too much time on my review of it. I'll just tell you what I think, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I, in particular, play the game. So what do I think? What do I think? Like I said, this game is crack. It is so much fun, and it's great for a parent like me because I can just pick it up, play it for a few minutes, and then, if necessary, hit the pause button, go deal with my kids, come back, unpause, and just kind of keep going. It's a very good, like, popcorn munching kind of game, if you catch my drift. So, with the amount of time I've put into this game, I've put together myself a fairly broken character build that I'm going to share with you today. So if you're watching and want to hear me talk about Risk of Rain 2, I'm going to assume that you have also played Risk of Rain 2. If not, you should go play it and come back, because I'm not going to be explaining too terribly much some of the stuff I'm going to say, so it's probably just going to sound like gibberish to you. So I'm sorry if you haven't played the game, but bear with me. So, how do I play this game? I'm going to give you a 4-step process to creating a really fucking broken character build in this game. Alright, so Step 1, you need to unlock the Survivor multi. And this is probably the easiest thing to do in the entire game, because all you have to do is complete the first stage 5 times. And that's it. That's how you unlock my boy multi. He is by far my favorite character. So, steps 2 and 3, or I guess 2, 3, and 4, because they're all going to be separate things. Whatever, steps 2, 3, and 4 you can technically do in any order, and those steps are unlocking 2 artifacts and unlocking Maltese Siege Mode, which I think in-game is called either Power Mode or Heavy Mode. Excuse me, I'm getting over a bit of a cold, but whatever, I call it Siege Mode. I would recommend doing the artifacts first, because that will make it easier for you to unlock Maltese Siege Mode. So, now you might be asking the question, what is artifacts and how do you unlock them? Artifacts are things that you can activate at the main menu that can fundamentally change the way the game is played, and you're going to need 2. The Artifact of Sacrifice and the Artifact of Command. So how do you get these things? On stage 5, somewhere in the map you can find a hole that leads you underneath the stage to a computer terminal. Now, full disclosure, I found this hole on accident. I fell into it, I wound up in front of the computer, and was asking myself, what the hell is this place and what does it do? So, full disclosure, I looked it up online and I found out what it did, because to figure out this thing normally, you would have to be running around all of the stages looking for hidden little, like, things that tells you or gives you hints about how to use the artifact computer thing, which, look, I'll be straight with you, I don't have time for that shit. I just don't, sorry. I mean, I barely have time to pursue my hobby of making random YouTube videos. I don't have time to scour the entire freaking level while also fighting off waves upon waves of enemies to maybe figure out what this computer console did. So I looked up. All the codes for it, they're on the wiki. So go use that. So anyway, what this computer does is once you interact with the circular plinths that are connected to the computer to input the proper code, you'll be taken to an optional stage where you fight an optional boss. That optional boss drops the ability for you to turn on the artifacts. Now, what do these particular artifacts do? Well, the Artifact of Command allows you to choose what item you want to get to a certain degree. So when an item drops, normally it's just an item, you pick it up, you have it, there you go. But what the Artifact of Command does is it turns that object into a box. And that box has a corresponding color to the rarity of the item you're going to be able to get from it. Gray, green, red, orange, blue if you open the lunar chest and all that. And essentially what this box does, it opens a menu that allows you to pick an item, any item that you have unlocked that is in the corresponding tier of rarity for the box that is dropped. Now the Artifact of Sacrifice removes all chests from the levels, but it causes enemies to drop items. So this is a bit slow going early on in the game, but once you start getting into the higher stages and the enemies start coming at you in hordes, they're going to be dropping items left, right, and center. And the great thing is, you don't have to pay for these items. These items are free. So all the money you're making can be spent on like the various turrets and drones that are hidden around the levels. So that's also really good. So getting these two artifacts, probably before you unlock Maltese Siege Mode, is going to be very helpful for unlocking Maltese Siege Mode, because that's the last step of this process. So what is Maltese Siege Mode and how do you unlock it? Well, you unlock it by completing the optional Void Fields map on Stage 7 or higher. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, so being able to have a lot of items and tailor your build toward unlocking this ability, it's going to be very helpful. So once you unlock it, what does it do? It replaces Maltese Retool Mode, which essentially allows you to have two different loadouts, which is also a very nice thing to have, but I prefer Siege Mode. Anyway, Siege Mode makes it so you gain a lot of armor at the cost of movement speed, and also allows you to dual-wield primary weapons. In this case, you're going to want to be rocking Maltese auto nail guns. So once you have all of these things, then you can create what I call the Gundam Heavy Arms build. So what is this build and what does it do? You don't actually need a whole hell of a lot to make this build really work, so we're going to go into that right now. After I take a drink of vitamin C. 1 second. So, here's what you need for the Heavy Arms build. Once you get your run going and once you start gaining stack of items, like I said, you don't need a whole hell of a lot to make this build work as I prefer it to work. I'll give you the basics of what you need, and then from there, you're really free to choose whatever the hell you want, but I'll also give you some of my personal picks to make this build work. So, once you get going, once you have all your things, first, you are going to need 10 tri-tip daggers. What are tri-tip daggers? Tri-tip daggers are an item that, for every tri-tip dagger, your attacks have a 10% chance to apply the bleed status effect to your enemies. The bleed effect deals 240% of your base damage over the course of 3 seconds per stack. So, getting 10 tri-tip daggers, it makes it so every single one of your attacks is guaranteed to apply a bleed status effect. That's pretty damn good, because Maltese auto nail guns fire 12 times per second, 24 if you're in siege mode. Are you starting to see where this build is going a little bit? I hope you do. The next item you're going to need, 10 soldier syringes. What are these? For every soldier syringe you have, you gain a plus 10% increase to your attack rate. So having 10 soldier syringes gives you 100% more attack rate, turning Maltese auto nail gun from 12 shots per second to 24 shots per second. That goes from 24 to 48 if you're in siege mode. Now I think you see where this build is going, right? So let's do some basic math here for a second, right? So each of those 48 shots per second is a guaranteed bleed for 240% damage per stack. So that's 48 times 240. If I can get my calculator working. 48 times 240. That is 11,520% damage for all of those stacks combined. Now keep in mind, that is 48 bleed stacks per second. You're going to be shooting more than just 1 second, which applies even more bleed effects, all of which accumulate to just melt enemies' health bars. It's wonderful. So, the other thing you're going to need to make this build work properly is you're going to need the disposable missile launcher equipment item, and then anywhere between 10 to 15 fuel cells. Fuel cells are green tier items, keep that in mind, so they will be dropping a little bit less frequently than gray tier items, but it shouldn't be easy to get. You don't need to go past 15 stacks of fuel cells. I've done it before. It's ridiculous, and you don't need to. Having a maximum of 15... Okay, so I should explain what these things do, like I did with the other items. Sorry. So the disposable missile launcher system, it's an equipment item. You equip it, you tap triangle, it fires off 12 seeker missiles. Fuel cells decrease the cooldown of your equipment item by 15% per fuel cell, while also adding the ability to store charges of that equipment. So having 15 fuel cells, I'm not going to do the percentage-based math. Well, you know what? Fuck it. I can do the percentage-based math on that. I have a calculator. All right, so 15 times 15. So having 15 stacks of fuel cells decreases the already pretty short cooldown of the missile system by a total of 225%. Getting to 15, I think, puts you at either a 5 or 4 second cooldown for this missile system and allows you to store 15 more charges of that same missile system. So essentially what you wind up being able to do is you have 16 charges for this missile system, each one representing 12 seeker missiles fired. And you can just mash triangle, or I guess Y if you're playing on Xbox or whatever, and just dump your entire stock of missiles all at once. And the cooldown is so short with all of those fuel cells that by the time you've fired the last missile of that initial 16 barrage, you've already got like 5 or 6 charges recharged back and ready to go. And keep in mind, each one of those missiles is also going to guarantee apply a bleed status effect. And they have much, much greater range than Multi's auto nail guns do. So if you ever see anything out of range of your nail guns, just fire missiles at it. It's going to be dead real quick. So that's the bare bones basics of what I call the Gundam Heavy Arms build. Where do you go from here? Because, you are going to be acquiring a whole hell of a lot more items than just the ones I described. Well, the way I like to play this build is I like primarily to tweak it toward on-hit items, which are items that have a set % chance to activate on hit. Because, keep in mind, if you're in siege mode and rocking both nail guns with the soldier syringes, that's 48 hits per second, each with usually about a base 10% chance to apply whatever on hit you happen to have equipped. So on hits like the ukulele's chain lightning, the ATG missile launcher, stuff like that. I think there's a boss item that causes a chance of lightning to strike from the sky on hit. If you start stacking up on-hit items, you're going to be melting bosses even faster than just with the base damage and the bleed damage, so that's really good. What else do I like to do? I definitely like to pick up some infusions, which are another green item that increases your maximum health per enemy killed up to a maximum of 100% per infusion item. And this also stacks with itself, so when you get one infusion, you get 1 health point max for every enemy killed. When you get 2 infusions, that becomes 2 health points for enemy killed. So once you go above 25 stacks of infusion, 4 enemies or less is going to be giving you another 100 points of health to your health total. Infusion's really just one of those ones that keeps getting better and better and better and better the more you use it without ever really having a diminishing return, because if you go above 100 stacks of infusion, if you manage to last that long, which with this build you very probably could, just killing a single enemy will give you the entire benefit of each infusion you get. It's ridiculous. So massive health total is also good. What else have I done with this build? Sorry, my brain is still a little bit fried from the sickness. So I talked about the on-hit stuff. I talked about infusion. Oh, crit glasses. Lens maker's glasses. You get 10 of those, and every single hit you deal is a guaranteed crit, and crits always deal double damage. So having 10 of those will double your overall damage output, and that applies to the nail guns, that applies to the missile launcher. I think it applies to all of your on-hit effects too, except for bleed. I don't think damage over time effects can crit, but I'm pretty sure the equipment missile launcher, the on-hit missile launcher, the chain lightning, I'm pretty sure all of those can crit. So having 10 lens maker's glasses will double that damage as well. So this build is ridiculous. I played around with it last night and managed to last, I think, about an hour and 20 minutes just doing an infinite loop run. It's pretty damn good. And you can also get the Tougher Times teddy bears, 10 of those. I'm not going to explain the math behind hyperbolic percentages. That's also on the website. But getting 10 teddy bears is a 60% chance for you to just completely nullify any incoming damage. Stacking that with Multi's Siege Mode armor, essentially making you take half damage from everything. So in Siege Mode, you take half damage base all the time. Plus that extra 60% chance to just take no damage makes Multi a very, very tanky boy. Adding that with maybe another green item, a couple of leech seeds to heal you on hit. You really only need about probably 3 or 4 leech seeds. And in siege mode, you'll probably be gaining health back faster than you're going to lose it in any given situation, unless you find yourself stuck in a poison pool or something. And that can also be negated by a common item called, I think it's just called the Goat's Hoof, which gives you a flat increase to movement speed that applies both to Multi's normal mode and siege mode. Very handy item. Getting 4 or 5 of those, you'll be zipping around all over the map. It's fucking great. Alright, I went on for almost 15 minutes about Risk of Rain 2. I should move on to the other game I've been playing. So, excuse me while I get this off the screen. And I put... Come on. Don't be a pain in the ass. What the fuck are you doing, OBS Studios? Oh. What the fuck? Come on. What is happening here? There we go. I don't know why that was having so many problems moving. Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. Full disclosure, I have not beaten this game yet. But I have been immensely enjoying it. So, a lot of people have been comparing it to Sekiro, which, I guess the comparison is there, but what I've been liking to say about this game is if the Neo series is Japanese mythology Dark Souls, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty is Chinese mythology Bloodborne. Which, I tend to like Bloodborne more than Dark Souls, but do I like Wo Long better than Neo? In this particular case, no, I don't. It's still a very good game, so let's get into it. It's a third-person action-adventure RPG hack and slash that takes place during the Three Kingdoms era of Chinese history. So, the reason I think I don't like this game so far as much as Neo is that it's a failing of my own, really. In that I was never really entranced by Chinese history the same way I was entranced by Japanese history. And I think a part of that is comparing the Warring States era of Japan to Three Kingdoms era China. In the Chinese history, there's a lot of names that you have to keep track of, a lot of names. And a lot of those names are very similar because those names often come from the same family. Like, you've got Guan Yu, you've got Guan Ping, you've got Guan Jing. You've got Sun Sao, like Sun Se, Sun Jian. It's a lot of very similar names to keep track of, and I never quite had the brain space enough for it. Does not stop the fact that Three Kingdoms era China is a very freaking cool period of history if you get a chance to study it, which, again, I have not studied it as near as much as I've studied the Warring States era of Japan. But I do know a little about it, and it's been enough for me to keep up with the story that's going on. And I did recognize a lot of the big names from Three Kingdoms China. I've actually met quite a few of them, and I've only played probably about 15 hours of Wo Long Dynasty. But yeah, it's nice seeing names that I know. Like, I've met Sun Jian, Zhang Liao, Guan Yu, which, by the way, Guan Yu, very interesting character. He was actually deified in Chinese history. He was essentially been elevated to the level of a god in their mythology. So that's very cool. I've also seen some names that I don't recognize, which might have been made up for this game. I don't know. I haven't really had a chance to look into it quite yet. But also Lu Bu. Lu Bu has to be in the game. I haven't seen him yet, and I haven't seen anything about him, but if they're trying to tell a Three Kingdoms era story and they don't have Lu Bu in this game, then what the fuck were these game developers on when they made this game? Like, Lu Bu is like probably the Masamune Date of Chinese era myth, like Three Kingdoms era mythology. Like, if you are trying to tell this kind of story and you don't have Lu Bu, you're just doing it wrong. He has to be there. He's that kind of character in, like, the cultural zeitgeist. Like, if it's Three Kingdoms era, Lu Bu has to be somewhere. If it's Warring States era, Masamune Date has to be somewhere. Anyway, sorry, that's the wannabe history teacher in me coming out. Anyway, this game is very, very fast-paced, which is saying something because Neo 1 and 2, like, I think that game might have actually played faster than Bloodborne did, and Bloodborne played pretty freaking fast. So, the reason I compare this game to Bloodborne rather than Sekiro, which those who were comparing it to Sekiro, they're not wrong. Like, a big part of this game's combat loop is you deflecting the enemy attack by hitting the deflect button or dodging. So, the reason I compare this to Bloodborne rather than Sekiro is that while you do have like a standing neutral deflect button, which is circle, or I guess B if you're playing this on Xbox or whatever, you can time it right that you will just parry the enemy's attack. But the idiot part of my brain that has played probably over 1,000 hours of Bloodborne keeps on telling me that, look, if you're not moving, you're dead, period. So when I'm deflecting an attack, I'm always dodging, like, left, right, forward, back. I'm going actively in a direction rather than standing still and waiting for the attack to come to me and then neutrally parrying it. I don't play that way. I'm always dodging, which is a very Bloodborne thing to do. You always want to be on the move, constantly positioning yourself to have a greater advantage over your enemy. So, the other thing about this game's combat gameplay is that you don't really have a stamina limit. You have what's called the spirit gauge. Careful, Spicy Ranch, what are you doing? She's losing her damn mind. Oh, this is going to be bad. Yep, there it was. There it was. You only knocked the aspirin over this time. Well done, well done. My kittens have discovered that they can get on top of the fridge now, so that's awesome. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. Spirit gauge. So, the spirit gauge functions as a quasi-stamina bar. So, it can go up, to, you start at 0, it can go up to 1,000, and down to negative 1,000. And the whole gameplay loop here really involves managing your spirit bar and trying to keep it in the positives more than the negatives. So what does this do for you? What does the spirit bar do? So spirit bar governs your ability to deflect and dodge, as well as cast the wizardry spells that you unlock just by leveling up in the game. So you never want your spirit gauge to bottom out. Like, just bottoming out on its own is not the worst thing in the world, but when you take damage, you lose spirit gauge. And if you're bottomed out and you take a hit, you go into a temporary stun state where you can't move, you can't do anything, you have to catch your breath. This is generally a very bad thing, and it's why you want to keep yourself from bottoming out your spirit gauge as much as possible. But, that being said, unless you completely bottom yourself out, you're never actually useless. Like, even if you have negative 999 in your spirit gauge, you'll still be able to deflect or cast a spell or whatever, and that will put you at negative 1000. But there's I don't know, unless you take a hit, there's no real bottom limit to this. So, why do you want to keep yourself in positive spirit gauge? Well, building up your positive spirit gauge allows you to hit triangle, which will have you unleash a spirit attack, which, depending on how much positive spirit gauge you have, will, I don't know if it's permanent or not, but it will decrease the maximum of the enemy's spirit gauge, which will make it easier for you to bottom them out and then deal a hit that puts them into a stun state, which then allows you to do, I forget what it's called in the game, I'm just going to go with Bloodborne, do a visceral attack for massive damage. So I also mentioned wizardry spells. I will explain that in just a moment. So as you go through the levels, fight and defeat enemies, you will gain genuine chi, which, this is a thing. Alright, sidebar for a second. This is a thing that still fucks with me even today, long after I went through a very basic history course of Three Kingdoms China, is that in English, when you're talking about Chinese terms and names, the Q, despite being spelled with a Q, a lot of things in the Chinese are pronounced with the CH. So, in this game, chi is spelled QI. So I see that, and my idiot American brain wants to read that as ki or qui, but no, it's chi. And there's a character in the game named Chen Long, but it's spelled QINLONG or QINGLONG, one of those two. So I want to pronounce it like Quinlong, but no, it's Chen Long. Sorry, that sidebar over. That still messes with me to this day. So anyway, as you play the game, you accumulate genuine chi, and then you spend that chi in one of 5 different trees, I guess. You have 5 different stats. Each one is called a phase. There's wood phase, earth phase, metal phase, fire phase, and water phase. And they each do a different thing to your stats. And as you put in levels into these phases, every 5 levels, you unlock 1 point to spend in each, keep that in mind, each phase's wizardry tree, which is kind of a weird choice in my opinion, because a lot of the spells in the various wizardry trees, I'm just going to call them magic trees, are locked behind a level limiter. You have to have X amount of points in this particular phase in order to get this particular spell. So when I started playing, I guess I did the newbie thing, and I just started dumping points into wood phase, which increases my overall health and my spell duration. So having a lot of points in the wood phase, if you want to be doling out buffs and debuffs, wood phase is a good way to go. So wood phase just increases my overall health, and I was putting points into that. So I was able to access the higher tiers of the wood phase magic tree. But it was also giving me these spell points for all these other trees that I just hadn't been putting points into. And granted, I'm not all that far into the game, so there is a chance that I might wind up with enough levels by the game is over that I could just have access to whatever fucking spell I want from whatever tree I want, just because I will have so many to dole around. But I don't know that yet, so it seems like a weird creative choice by the game developers to give you these points that there's a good chance you're probably just not going to use. Also, I found myself a pretty broken combination, which I'm going to share with you, because this combination it's one of those things that seems so incredibly good that it's just like, why the fuck would you not use this? So, in the wood phase magic tree, there's a spell called Inner Breath. And what this does, it's a temporary buff to yourself that allows you to charge up what's called your Divine Beast gauge, which allows you to like summon out a Spirit Guardian that can either infuse your weapon for more damage, or you can have the Guardian itself on the field to do some kind of effect. So, I believe the Divine Beast in question here that I'm using was in fact the one I was talking about earlier, was Qianlong. Let me confirm that real quick. Sorry, my phone's being slow. Alright, Wo Long Divine Beasts. There we go. 5 Divine Beasts in Wo Long. Let me see here. Pardon me, appears to have been Yinlong, not Qianlong. Yinglong. There we go. So the Divine Beast Yinglong. So, you unlock Yinglong very early on in the game, and what Yinglong does is you can put him out on the field, and he instantly heals your full life and puts out a temporary area effect heal, which heals you and your allies over time as long as you're standing in it. So, combined with Inner Breath and Yinglong, like, you can throw out Yinglong, get the heal, get your allies healed, cast Divine Breath, do a very small amount of fighting, and then have your Divine Beast gauge filled again and ready to go very, very quickly. And I think Inner Breath, you only need like 12 points. It's either somewhere between 12 and 18 points in wood phase, which is not much. You can get that very, very early on in the game. In fact, you can probably have those points into wood phase before you even unlock Yinglong. So, it's easy, it's good, and you get it super early in the game. It's one of those things, this is so good. Why the hell would you not use it? There's literally no downside to doing this combination. With those points in the wood phase, you're getting more health, you're getting more spell duration, and then you get Yinglong, and you get Inner Breath, and you have essentially like permanent uptime on Yinglong. It is a full party heal plus temporary passive heal on demand whenever the hell you want it. Why would you not use that? It's like sorry, I don't want to insult people, but there is, again, literally no downside to using this combination. It reminds me a lot of the Suzaku Spirit Guardian cheese from the original Nioh, which, if you didn't play that, let me explain. So, in Nioh, you had things called Spirit Guardians, and what those Spirit Guardians do is, if you have the stats for them, you equip them, they give you passive bonuses, like, more health steal on grapple kill, more luck, whatever effect you want, there's probably a Spirit Guardian out there for it. Spirit Guardian in question is called Suzaku, and you get it probably about like halfway through the game, and what this Spirit Guardian does is, if your living weapon gauge, which is essentially Nioh 1's super mode, if your living weapon gauge is full, and you take a hit that would kill you, you automatically go into living weapon mode, which allows you to wreck whatever just dealt you that killing blow, and then you survive once living weapon is over with 1 hit point. The other effect of Suzaku is, if you are under critical health, which I think is either a 10 or 20% maximum health threshold, your living weapon gauge slowly regenerates over time without you having to do anything. So what you would end up doing is you would use an item to fill up your spirit gauge. You would go into combat, you would fight as long as you can. You took a killing blow, oh no, living weapon mode, kill everything in the room. Once living weapon is over, just chill for a minute or two. Get up, go get yourself like a sandwich, take a bathroom break or something. When you get back, guess what? Your living weapon gauge is full again. So you can either remain at that one hit point and go into combat, take a hit again, and repeat the whole process over, or you could be more cautious about it, heal up back to full, continue on, but you would still have that emergency oh shit button in the form of your auto living weapon gauge, should you need it again. I'm not gonna lie, when I was not so good at Soulsborne video games, the Suzaku cheese carried me pretty much my entire first playthrough of Nioh. It was ridiculous. A lot of fun. I have a lot of fond memories of Nioh 1 and 2. We're not talking about them. We're talking about Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. So, the Inner Breath Ying-Long combo is very good and you absolutely should use it. Let's move on from that. So, still talking about the combat, I guess. I'm not going to really talk about the story because I actually don't know much about the story. And from what I've been hearing from other people playing this game, the story is okay. Like, Annabelle, enough. Story's okay. Nothing to write home about. It's a Three Kingdoms story.
Of a bitch.
If that's so, Dean Winchester. Something to say on this matter? No. Okay, not important. Yeah, the story, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It'll be entertaining, but not breaking any new ground. So, still on the combat, I guess. There's like 12 different weapons. All the weapons look great. I gotta tell you, the Chinese martial arts on display in this game, absolutely beautiful. I love it so much. Chinese martial arts has always been just absolutely incredible to watch be performed. And they pulled out all the stops on this one. There is no boring like weapon set or ability in this game that I've seen. They all look great in motion. And I know a lot of people, especially in modern days, have been like, oh, like traditional Chinese martial arts, that's not effective anymore. Okay, let me tell you something. I'm a fairly well-trained martial artist myself. I did martial arts for over 20 years. I still practice on my own. As a fairly experienced martial artist who has been on the receiving end of those Chinese martial arts that you call ineffective.
Son of a bitch. He's a crafty son of
Excuse
a
me,
bitch.
my wife is calling me.
Son of
Hello?
Hello, my husband.
Hey.
Okay, remember Virgil has a dentist appointment at 2:20.
Yes.
Okay. And, I will be there probably about 2:10.
Okay, same place as Awen?
Yeah.
Alright, I will be there.
And it should be a quick visit. They're not going to do any brushing or anything. They're just going to do a whole clean as far as appointment.
Okay.
I already have his paperwork and I have his cards.
Alright.
So while I have Virgil, one of the things that needs to happen with the vehicle is the tires need to get aired up 7 years.
Alright, I can do that.
So do that, and then I'm gonna bring my cup and have you take it for the holiday while you're there.
Okay.
Alright, thanks. Alright. How's your mom doing?
She's fine.
Virgil's still not showing a temp?
Nope.
Did you check his temperature?
Yep.
What time did you wake up this morning?
Woke up at about 7:45.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. Alright, love you too. Sorry about that parent stuff. Anyway, what the hell was I saying? Oh, right. As somebody who has been on the receiving end of Chinese martial arts in various forms over the years, I can tell you, those martial arts are still plenty fucking effective. There is a reason that they've stuck around for as long as they have, i.e., a couple of thousand years. They've stuck around a couple of thousand years because they freaking work, man. They work in real life and they work in this game too. again, just the martial arts here, gorgeous. I love looking at them. It's definitely one thing this game has over Neo 1 and 2, which the martial arts on display there were also no slouch. But just in my own personal opinion, Chinese martial arts have always had like a bit more like flair to them than Japanese martial arts did, and it's very, very cool to see in this game. So there's also a lot of Chinese mythology, I guess, next to the history of this game that I actually don't really know squat about. But this is a Team Ninja Soulsborne game, so I don't know if I've unlocked it yet, but I'm 99% sure that there's going to be like an exposition dump in the form of like an unlockable like log book or collection detailing all these various bits of Chinese mythology that I'm running into, and I cannot wait to start reading about it. I am so excited because, like I said, Three Kingdoms China and Chinese mythology in general, not something I've studied a whole hell of a lot, and I'm looking forward to learning about it. All in all, as far as I've played into it, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, very cool game. Definitely makes me feel like an old man because this game moves so fast in its gameplay that sometimes I'm not even sure I can keep up with it. Like, I might be too old for this crap. I might have to be a Danny Glover about it. But anyway, to get back on track, like I said, it's a very, very fun game, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, yeah, we've gone about 40 minutes now talking about these games. I think that's going to do it for me. I don't really have anything left to say about these games. So thank you for sitting here and listening to my ramble. A like and a subscribe would be appreciated. So to comment. Alright, I will see you on the next episode, and as always, have yourself a wonderful day.